Stay tuned to learn how you can use the reflections in wet acrylic and the dust from filing to assist you in creating awesome acrylic nails. Today I'm going to walk you through an acrylic nail fill. I'm going to tell you everything that I'm doing so the next time you do someone's nails, it will help you speed up your time and help your application be perfect. After the polish is removed, I take a metal implement with a knife end on it. It has a little bit of a point on the end, and I go along the cuticle area and I lightly push back the cuticle and scrape off any pterygium that's adhered to the nail plate. I'm also inspecting each nail to know if I have to go back and nip anything off after I'm done pushing back the cuticles. So during this process, you're going to look for color changes in the acrylic. This will indicate that there is a lift. You're going to look for small pieces of acrylic adhered to the nail walls on the sides. That can show you where some lifting has occurred. And right there, that's a little piece that was adhered to the skin. And I'm just kind of pulling it backwards, trying to remove it so I didn't have to use my nippers. So there's no acrylic left on the middle finger, as you can see, and if you look at our index finger, you can see some color changes in the center. That is an air bubble, but it's not terrible. It's not close to the sides. And this nail, she has rheumatoid arthritis, and it is disconnected a little bit underneath or on her nail bed, but she's been treating it for some time and it hasn't progressed any. So now we're going to go back and nip off any little teeny tiny pieces of acrylic that were lifted or adhered to the skin. If you don't get off the little teeny tiny pieces, when you apply the primer to the nail plate, it's going to penetrate underneath the lifted area and it'll turn yellow, and it will cause lifting in the long run. So now it's time to file the outside edge of where the acrylic is connected to the nail. We want to blend that in. You want to be careful not to dig into the natural nail. You don't want to scar the nail plate. We're just lightly etching the nail and blending where the acrylic meets the natural nail. Now I'm going to use the tip of my file to push back at the cuticle a little bit, because sometimes the pterygium is that excess part of the cuticle that adheres to the nail plate. It's just really stubborn, and you can use your file just to push it back and blend it right off the nail plate. time to remove all of the dust from the nail plate. You want to make sure that you get really down into the edges to make sure there isn't any little bit of debris down in the corners, because if the acrylic touches that, it's just going to cause your acrylic to lift. Now we're going to apply the primer. Primer only goes on the natural nail, not on the acrylic. It'll cause it to yellow. So while I'm applying this acrylic today, I want you guys to pay close attention to the reflection that the light makes on the wet acrylic, because this is a huge indicator of if your acrylic is level and smooth. When you place your bead of acrylic on the nail, be careful not to sit it too close to the cuticle line. You're going to move the acrylic back where you need it with the tip of your brush. After I sit this bead of acrylic on the nail, I realize that there's a little piece of skin that's jutting out into the area, and I needed to push that away. Now I'm just coaxing the acrylic where I need it, patting it down so it blends into the cuticle line. Make sure none of it touches the skin. I'm going to slow this down so you can see it really well. I'm going to apply the ball onto the nail, not too close to the cuticle. And I'm going to press into the acrylic to scoot it up next to the cuticle. Then I go from left to right up the left side of the nail wall, and then I press, and then I pull the acrylic out. Now I'm going to press harder. You can see a little bit of the indentations from the brush on the left and the right. I'm actually hesitating and pressing into it because I want to flatten it out a little bit. Sometimes speed matters. The slower you go, the faster you'll get done, I promise, because the less mistakes you will make and the less filing you'll have to do. Now the ring finger that I'm about to do, you can see a couple of little discoloration marks, and this is a good example to tell you guys that your work isn't always going to be perfect. If you're in a hurry or if a client was late, sometimes you can't get every single little piece of lifted acrylic off. And this nail, the last time we did her nails, the acrylic was a tiny bit lifted. I couldn't pick it all off. It was giving me the hardest time, and when I removed the polish, a little bit of the color went underneath the nail, and that's what that is. And it's fine. It's not the prettiest thing, and she wears colored polishes. If she were going to want a French, I would have filed a little bit longer and gotten all of that off. I'm going to pick up a bigger ball of acrylic because I want to cover a larger space. I'm going to let it sit for about 3 seconds so you can see the color change and it settle a little bit before you start moving it around. Now the most important thing when you have so much nail plate exposed is to not touch the nail plate with the wet brush. The nail has to come into contact with the wet acrylic first, or the bond between the acrylic primer and the acrylic product is not going to be great, and your nail will end up lifting. That ball was a little too wet, it was a little sticky. You saw me walk it up the edges, and now I'm just trying to wait for a couple of extra seconds for it to set up some so I can move it around and then add more acrylic to it. I talked about using reflection. Look at that tip. It looked like a slope. When that reflection hit it, you'll have to go back and watch now, but see at the bottom where it looks slopey and there's no reflection in the center, you know that you need to reshape that. Acrylic is going to have to be added to the center, and then the tip of the nail, it was bulgy. I'm going to have to change the direction of the angle of my brush and add more acrylic to make sure everything is nice and even. I'm going to add this ball of acrylic to fill in that dip. It was missing a lot in the center, but I'm just going to blend it up until I get to the tip. I'm not going to add any more width to the tip because I could tell by that reflection that it had more acrylic on it already. So I'm going to end up raising the finger into the air, changing the direction of my brush, and pushing that acrylic backwards to shape the nail. Now you can tell the reflection, it's just all jacked up. It's got divots, lumps, and I'm just trying to press it back. I re-wet my brush to give me a little bit more movability. Sometimes acrylic sets up quickly, but sometimes acrylic sets up slower, especially if the room's cold. And with this time of year and the temperatures outside, because it's November, it's chilly in Michigan, so it's taken a little bit longer to dry. I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see the angle at the cuticle and how to blend that so it looks like it's growing right out of the skin. Here's her thumb that she has a problem with from her rheumatoid arthritis. Her nail plate actually does lift off of her nail bed. We treat it like a fungus, and when I'm finished I will throw out the file that I was using in the buffer block and make sure that all of my tools and equipment have been sanitized. Her thumb is the only finger, thankfully, that she has a problem with, and she does treat it with medication as well. When I file, I always try to do things in an organized manner. I always do the nail walls first, shape the free edge a tiny bit. She likes her nails long, so she didn't want any taken off. Go around the cuticle a little bit, and then I go across the nail plate. Now, I talked about reflections earlier. I'm also going to talk about dust. On that last finger, there was a little line on the left-hand side up near the cuticle where you could tell that it needed to have some more filing done. And I'm sure I'll see more on these. I'll explain to you. I like to file like this because it gives me symmetry. I can make sure that everything is the same on the left side of the nail and the right side of the nail, that my arch is right down the center. I look down the nail when I'm filing so I can see any height lumps or bumps. Let's talk about protecting the client's skin as well. When I start to file around her cuticle, you're going to see my thumb move very close to the nail, right there. It's because I want the fingernail file, if I slip, to hit me and to not hit her skin. So I butt my thumbnail up super close so I don't ever cut a client's skin. You'll see me run my thumb across these nails over and over and over again. You can see better with your fingers than you can with your eyes. You'll be able to feel any divots, lumps, bumps, any unevenness. So always run your thumb across the fingernail after you're finished filing it. As I file this finger, I want you guys to watch the pattern the nail dust makes on the nail. When I file a section of the nail turns whitish. It's dusty. Now when I'm going back and forth across the nail, you're going to be able to tell where you have filed and where you have not. And do you see that line going that I'm filing right now? I'm filing it off. That still needed to be filed. So as you're filing people's nails, watch for those patterns to be made in the acrylic with the dust, because it'll tell you where you have uneven spots. When I made the comment about the slower you go, the faster you'll be done, because the more perfect you apply the acrylic to the nail plate, very little filing needs to be done. You want the acrylic to look like it's growing out of the skin. Fingernails should look like God put them there. I'm going to end up shortening this thumbnail a little bit using my tip cutters. I just want to talk to you for a second about the angle you insert the tip cutters in. You don't want to have them straight up and down, and you don't want to squeeze fast. You want to squeeze until the tip touches the acrylic, and then you're going to squeeze really slow, and then it won't crack your acrylic. But if you hold it straight up and down, you want to push toward the thumb a little bit and then squeeze so it cuts not at a 45-degree angle, not at a 90-degree angle, but someplace in between there. Time to buff the nails. This is a 240 grit buffer block. We're just going to get all of the fine file lines off of the acrylic and smooth the edges. You want to go underneath the free edge with it as well. And you're also going to watch your dust, because you'll be able to see if there's any little divots or high spots that you need to go over. If you have a divot or a high spot and then you don't get it and you apply the polish, you'll be able to see it in the polish, so you need to be watching for them while you're filing. Some of you like slow motion, some of you like fast motion. So I compromised. I did fast motion on the polish today. If you want to watch it in regular speed, I have a couple of other videos that you can go back and watch that tutorial on polishing. You'll see me scooting the brush a little bit, and that I'm just trying to get really close to the cuticle. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you guys learned something. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please click that subscribe button and share my videos with your friends if you think they could benefit from them. Thanks. Have a great day.